So hi, GR.
Hi, Terry.
Okay, so I always like to start every conversation
Hmm.
just sharing something that we're thankful for because I like to encourage living in a spirit of thankfulness. You
Sure.
got something to? What do you got for me today?
I'm super thankful for my family, and I'm very thankful that I got to spend the morning with my daughter. Even though she was getting her wisdom teeth out, it was still fun to be together. And I'm thankful that the medical facilities and services we have access to are, top notch. So thankful for all those people out there serving and as doctors and nurses and taking care of the people that need to be taken care of. So
It's true. We went on a missions trip to the Dominican Republic, and you start appreciating things like a toilet that flushes. Usually, what we do is we hop on 30 minutes, 15 minutes early to talk about what we're going to talk about. We didn't do that today.
it's okay.
We didn't, but there is always a lot to talk about with real estate.
Sure.
So
I,
I
I get
actually,
lots. I get lots of questions about like first time home buyer stuff. Sometimes
yeah,
you ever get questions
yeah.
about that?
Yes, and actually, I was going to talk to you. I know I'm doing a lot of workshops and a lot of things, but I want to do a home buyer workshop because
Yeah.
I realize people don't know the difference between rent and a mortgage. And, some of these young kids are like, what's a mortgage, Miss Terry?
Yeah.
They don't even know what's a earnest deposit, right?
Yeah.
What are those kind of things? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
My dad was talking to a fellow this week, I think he's 29, and he was talking to
mm,
him about buying a home versus renting. And the guy said to my dad, he said, "You're the first person in my life that's ever talked to me about buying a house." The guy was 29
wow.
years old.
Wow.
29 years old. So, it's not something that you can just assume that people know because if nobody's talked to them about it, they may know nothing about it. They
Yeah.
may not have even
That,
known it's an option. I talked to the guy. I said, "How's your credit?" He said, "Over 700." I said, "How long you been in your
wow.
job?" He said, 6 years. He's been in this job,
Wow.
and he's renting a
See,
house.
now listen, if we had a first time home buyers workshop, that's something he could come to, right?
100%. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people think it's a lot harder than it is
Yes.
for that first home, but it's just really not. I mean, with the programs out there from the government, the USDA financing, if you were military or your spouse is military and you're eligible for VA financing, that's the absolute best. And even if are in an area where USDA is not available and you're not VA, you can do FHA financing, which is as little as 3.5% down. The other two are 100% financing. So literally, there's no down payment. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no cost. There could be some costs, but a lot of times we have the seller cover the majority of the costs. So on numerous occasions, I've helped somebody purchase a home and move in for less than what it would cost them to move into a rental, right? Because when you move into a rental, you're looking at 1 month's rent, 1 month security deposit. A lot of times I've had people sit down at the settlement table, maybe they did a $1,000 deposit when they put the contract in, and I've seen them get $300 or $400 back at the settlement table. So their out-of-pocket cost at settlement was $600, and they're buying a
Yeah,
house.
that's actually a good point because
Yeah,
a lot of people don't think about that, especially if, let's say that you're still living at home with your parents, right? And
yeah.
you have to do first month's rent and security deposit, you could buy a home.
You can just buy
Because
it. Right.
right now, average rent in our area is 15 to 8. I would have to say $1,700 a month. That's $3,400 a month.
Right.
That's $3,400 you need to
To
go
move in.
into that rental. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Unless, but the other thing too is I think that if people knew how to do it, what I find in my financial coaching is that once somebody has a goal, they can actually do it. But most people won't
Yeah.
save unless they have a reason to save.
True.
Right? But if they're like, oh, okay, if I save this amount, I can get into a house, right? And
Right.
I find that even if I say, hey, save 7,000, because the lender's going to want you to have a couple thousand in the bank, and you're going to want a
Right.
couple thousand in the bank. Even a number
Right.
like that, I find that people are motivated because they have a reason, and they they see how they can do it, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
But for a
yeah.
young person, obviously I remember when it was very difficult to save that kind of money. But what I would do, if I was in a situation where I just wasn't able to save up the money, wait till you get your tax return. When you get your tax return this time of year, set it up so that when you get your tax return, that money goes into a savings account and is going to be used for you to buy a house. The other thing is in Delaware, first-time home buyers do get about it depends, but about a 1% discount on the transfer taxes. Could be a little more, could be a little less, depending on the situation and where it is, where the house is. But they get a discount as first-time home buyers to buy a home on the transfer taxes, which saves some money as well. But it's just, you don't need that much money. You do need to have decent credit. And one of the things I did for my children is as soon as they turned 18, I took them to the bank. We had a savings account with $500 in it, and we got them a credit card that was secured by the $500 that was in the savings account. And they have that card for 6 months to a year. And as long as they use it and make the payments on it, the bank will then release that $500 security that's being held. And my son, they just sent him a notice that said, hey, it's actually an actual credit card now. You can, we've released the $500 or $1,000 that he had, and his credit limit's $2,000 on a credit card. And he actually has a credit score of like 710. And, he's just turned 22 years old. So he's actually in a position credit-wise to purchase a home at 22 years old, So I did the same thing, as, like I said, for my daughter. And that way, when they do go to buy a home, they're not showing up with no credit at all, right? They have some credit. That's another thing that, that I think you should do as a parent to help your kids kind of get off on the right foot and open up opportunities for them and make things easier for them to purchase a home.
Yeah. So actually, so it looks like our topic is gearing towards giving people ideas and what they can do and examples of if they feel like they can't go into a home or they don't have money to save. So I just want to piggyback off of what you said. So those are a lot of great points, but I want to piggyback off what you said about the tax money, right? Mm-hmm. So I know someone who their credit score wasn't good. So what they did the first year, because they had 3 children, so they had over $10,000 in tax money coming in, right? Yeah. Now I do feel like when somebody has that amount of money in tax money coming in, it's because they actually really need it to live off of. So I find in talking to people, because I love to talk to a wide range of people, right? And I find that in talking to people, really by the time they get that tax money, they're so far behind financially that they're using that money to pay back on things. But so this one particular couple, they took their tax money and they just stayed focused, and they used that tax money to pay off their debt. So for that year, they stayed focused on not falling behind, right? And then the second year, they used that tax money and used it as a down payment on their home, And actually, these 2 particular households that I'm thinking of, I helped them get into a lot of people don't know that there's subsidized housing for a mortgage, which is really hard. A lot of realtors don't like to work with clients like that because they feel like that's a hard client to work with. But and I personally don't like putting somebody in a subsidized home. What that means is when let's say the mortgage is going to be $1,200, your payment is going to be $700, and the government is taking care of the other $500, right? Right. However, I'll give an example of somebody I helped get into a home like that. She was a single mom with 3 kids, and they were living in a trailer park, and she was paying $700, right? And so she started saving her tax money and started working on her credit. So even though she did that financially, she couldn't afford any more than $700. But this loan helped her to get into it. Now, what happens is, and this is really important for people to know, with the subsidized housing, if you ever go to sell your home, they want that paid back. So you're not really building equity, right? Which is, I like to talk to people about building their equity, building their wealth, and that loan is 33 years. But the reason I would encourage someone to do a loan like that is because outside of doing that loan, she would have never been able to buy a house.
Right. So, this brings up a point of, with real estate, sometimes I've partnered with people, right? So
Yeah.
I always, anything you can do on your own, great, do it. But if you can't do it on your own, then partner with someone or some entity or some, program to allow you to at least take steps in that direction. So every time that I buy a house with financing, I'm partnering with the bank for the money
Right.
because I don't have $180,000 to buy a property. I only have 30,000. So I go to the bank and I borrow 150. At that point, they kind of became my financial partner, and I'm buying them out over the next 20 years or 15 years or 30 years or whatever the mortgage is.
Mhm.
That's kind of how I view it. So we
Yeah.
talked in the past
So
about like interest rates and stuff like that, but that's why the interest rates aren't as important as maybe people think. I certainly wouldn't let an
yes.
interest rate let me walk away from a good deal that was going to be profitable, right?
Yes.
So,
So actually, I just had that conversation with the couple that I closed with, and I got to just pull up a scripture verse because there's a scripture in the Bible that says the borrower is slave to the lender. But this is what I like to tell people: you have to look at the bank as not the lender. We call them the lender, but in that situation, you're a partner with the bank. So what I explain to them
100%.
is this money, yep, this money that you're putting down, let's say it's 5%. Now you own 5%, and you're partners with the bank to own 95%. And your focus
Exactly.
is to own more than the bank, right? To be
Exactly.
more, you have
Right.
opportunities to be a bigger partner than the bank, right? And
Right.
so in those
So,
terms,
right. So if you use your credit card to go buy some new clothes, that's not a partner. That's a lender. And
yes,
we want to avoid that. But when
we
you
want to
use
avoid unhealthy debt and know the difference
right,
between healthy and unhealthy debt, right?
right, right.
So
There's
that
debt
that
that yeah, there's debt that makes you money, and then there's debt that
yes,
just simply costs you money, right? So the
yes,
mortgage interest that I'm paying as the tenant is actually paying the rent, there's a profit margin there, right? So
right.
that's how I um, pay the mortgage is through the rent that's coming in, and then the positive cash flow, the amount of rent that's above the mortgage payment. That's for me to reinvest or live on, or that's my profit for me to do what I need to do.
Yes. So the couple that I am under contract with right now,
Mhm.
I love because I so I think I told you 80% of the transactions I did in the last 3 years have been with investors, right? I'm a realtor for investors. So this closing, I mean, this transaction that I just went under contract with, not that those don't feel special to me because a lot of my investors are philanthropists. They
Right.
they build schools. They're philanthropists. They're real givers, right? So
Mhm.
I always say I'm a realtor to investors who are philanthropists, really, who love to give. But this couple, they're moving into their 50s, which is because we're always talking about younger generation. But sometimes people go through struggles in life, or they weren't taught finances, or they go through a divorce that wrecks them
Right.
financially, right? And then it takes
Mhm.
them time to build up. And what I love about this one couple is that in their 50s, they're excited about their finances and their future. They're not looking
Right.
at it like I'm 50, right? Because I always say, what if you live to be 95? You have 45 years of your life left still, right?
Right.
So it's not too late to buy a home at 50, and you should buy a home at 50 because you could live another 25 to 50 years. You
I
might have only
hope.
lived
Right.
half your life.
That's
But
right.
here's how I know when somebody's listening. And actually, as we were talking right now, and we're going back and forth, and we're doing this heart to heart conversation, right?
Yeah.
Um, I realize that what we're doing here is a tool for people who actually want to know about real estate investing or finances, or it's a tool that we can use because this couple have asked me, right? So, there's people who maybe want to partner together in investments, right? But for
Yeah.
me, I'm always wanting to qualify people, right? Are
Mhm.
you somebody, because people think, well, just because I'm a realtor or I'm talking to people about doing investments, they think that if you have money, I want to work with you, but that's not necessarily the case, right? So I
Right.
always want to qualify people. One, their knowledge base, their emotional intelligence with finances, their trustworthiness, right? And so I
Sure.
thought it was so as we're doing this video, I was thinking, this is a video. Once we put on YouTube, I can actually send to this couple to watch, or to any future client. Other realtors can watch these videos that we're doing, right? And they start to get to know what we're talking about. And if they have a client that has a question, they can send the video to their client, especially if they want to invest, right? So I always know where somebody is based on the questions that they ask. So, a question this couple asked me was, Terry, so 3 years, so they're starting to understand equity. They're starting to understand that, the interest rate, so I can't remember what their interest rate is, but we were talking about don't shy away from interest rates. But what their mortgage payment is going to be is what rents are now. So it makes sense for them you're either paying your mortgage or you're paying your landlord's mortgage. So it makes sense for them to buy a house, right? Even though people are like, I'm waiting for the prices to go down. I'm waiting for. So here's the question they asked me. So Terry, 3 years from now, how will we know how much equity we can pull out to buy our first investment property? I love that question, because what do I know now? They're serious. They're actually listening to my material. They're actually reading the things I suggest for them to read. And I share that to share with other realtors, right? And other realtors who want to work with investors. You can always tell where somebody is at based on the questions that they ask you, and their seriousness level, right?
Yeah.
Because we also, I don't know how I ended up talking. I don't know how I ended up talking about that, but I thought that was cool because they're in their 50s and they're not thinking. A lot of people in their 50s right now are thinking, Terry, how can I get to $100,000 a year passive income? Right. Because they're contractors who maybe don't have as much in Social Security, maybe didn't think about it, but now that they're 50, they're thinking about it. That's actually the age, really the big age in my financial coaching, is people who are 45 to 75 years old.
Yeah. So for those of you who are in your 20s or even 30s, start thinking about it now, and it makes things a lot easier, because you already have steps in place and you already have a plan underway by the time you get to be 50. And you don't. Yeah, I see that as an opportunity, if you're watching this, to take advantage of what we're talking about. It's not hard to buy a house. It's just really not. You just got to talk to the right person,
Right. And for us, that's why we're doing this, and we're doing the things that we're doing at Myers Realty, right? It's because we want to give people the opportunity to get in the room with people who want to help them through the process, and not even. I tell people all the time, I think sometimes people are looking for the now. And they'll say, well, Terry, I'm not ready to talk to a lender now. Why should I? Well, because you want to start establishing that relationship with the lender, so the lender knows your seriousness. And not only that, if you talk to a lender and a year later you qualify for a house, that lender's got your back, because they know that you actually work to do it, right? So those relationships are with people who are saying, okay, I know that I actually worked to do this. And then sometimes when people go to talk to a lender, they're actually ready. They don't even know it.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I'm sure a lot of what you do in your coaching involves planning, correct?
Yes. So with the financial coaching, the big thing is tracking. Like right now, I'm getting ready to do I was supposed to start yesterday. I was supposed to go live yesterday and talk about increasing your income, but I'm doing, and this was the very first thing I started. It was called 5 Steps to Getting on Track in Your Personal Finances. But now I'm switching it to 5 Steps to Financial Independence, right? Like, what does that look like? And so one of them is increasing your income, decreasing unhealthy debt. So you have to know the difference between healthy and unhealthy debt. And then moving from active to passive income, growing your bank account, and tracking everything. And I think a big thing to track actually is, so when you're talking about a lot of planning, right? But the big thing to me is how people distribute their funds. I think we talked about that the first week. In the first week that we had it at Myers Realty, I talked about a 70-20-10 formula that I like to recommend. Is live off of 70%, give 10%, and 20% you're using for growing your bank account and building wealth. And that's that function of that account, right? And so, and the other thing too, I like to encourage people when we're talking about planning is this is what I realize is people really actually don't know. So that's what I was looking at what we're going to do in July. No, what month are we? June. Our June session, our in-person session at Myers Realty.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about actually, hey, let this be the week where we actually map it out. What's your next step? I realized people don't actually know how to set goals. They don't know how to say, hey, this is what I want. What steps are for me personally to get here, right? And then if you actually do those steps, right? And then they don't know what to do if they don't hit their goal. So I had a woman who was like, well, my goal is to have $5,000 in 6 months. And I said, okay, well, let's map out how you're going to do that. Where's the money going to come from? What are you going to put that money towards? You know, and halfway through it, she said, I'm not going to hit the goal. I don't know what to do. You have to still keep striving for the goal, because when you're striving for it, you're learning things about yourself that you didn't know. So the big thing with my financial coaching is that people are also learning things about themselves that they didn't know. Right. And it's way different than what I do is way different than what there's anything else out there. So people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was, it really actually does propel people forward in their finances. So it's exciting. I love it. So yeah.
I just think a lot of people have not put together any kind of a plan for their financial future. And I think that maybe at our next, our first Tuesday of the month, first Tuesday of June, when we do our live session, we should do some goal setting and do some planning for, 1 year out, 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out. Because like you said, I mean, hopefully, God willing, we're all going to live for another 20 or 30 years, or 40 or who knows. But so you might as well plan for it. And one of the things I love from Jim Rohn, he said, is be grateful for what you have while you strive for what you want. That's what goal setting is all about. I'm not saying don't be happy with what you have. Be grateful for where you're at and what you have. But there's nothing wrong with striving for a better life, or for more, or for $100,000 a year in passive income, or for $400,000 a year in passive income, whatever floats your boat. You know what I mean? So I know a lot of times you teach people, part of your plan is to get 10 rental properties, but some people might be happy with 5. Some people might want 40. But so you have to plan that out. You have to put some goals down and make a plan to achieve, whatever level, you're interested in getting to.
Yeah, so I'm glad you actually brought that up, because 10 investment properties isn't for everyone. I talked to a couple people recently where I said, hey, maybe your plan is just to stay ahead of inflation. So if you own your home and 2 investment properties, you stay ahead of inflation. And the reason I started sharing that is because I have a few couples who purchased about 2 years ago some investment properties, because they said, Terry, we want to be okay. We're retired. We're doing just a lot of, giving stuff, but we didn't plan for inflation. So we figure if we get 2 more investment properties, now we're okay with inflation. So that's going to be our inflation properties, and I have some investors who are like, well, this is for us and this is what we're leaving for our kids. But this house, this is our giving money. So the money that they get from that property is the money that they use to give, And so to me, that's just, we start our kids with jars. I actually still work off of jars. Right? This jar, this piggy bank, or this jar, this fund is for when we go on vacation, our spending money. This fund is for what I'm going to do to buy and sell and make money. This fund is going to be my giving fund, right? So when we we learn that as kids, and now those jars sometimes turn into bank accounts. Or now with investors, it can turn into property. This property is going to be my giving property. This property is going to be property, the money we get from this, we're going to go on vacation with. I think when you start looking at things like that, and you start knowing where the money's going to come from, and you put a dollar amount to things, that's the other thing. People don't know how to put a dollar amount to things. This is the dollar I'm going to spend for Christmas. This is the dollar amount I'm going to spend for vacation. They don't actually know how to create a realistic budget.
Right. So, you brought up the thing about giving, and I was listening to Steve Harvey, who I really like a lot. And obviously he's a very spiritual.
That's so funny, because I love Steve Harvey. He's like so Steve Harvey right now.
Yeah, he's such a spiritual guy and stuff. And I was listening to him at one point, and he was like one of the people he was talking to was like, why do you give so much? Why do you give so much to charity? And he goes, well, I promised God when I was broke that if I ever became successful, I would be charitable. I would give away, what I could to help, the world be a better place. And he said, I made that promise with God. He said, and as I started to be blessed financially, I started to give more and more and more. And he's like, I don't want to mess up our plan. He's like, because I know the more God knows, the more he gives me, the more I'm going to give away. And he's like, so, we kind of have an arrangement. He's like, so I can't stop giving because then God will stop blessing me. And I feel the same way. I give to my church. I give to a couple other charities and stuff like that. But, I know we always talk about what we're thankful for, and I know we're both, spiritual people, but if you do believe that God is watching over us and you do believe that he's in control, then there really should be no fear in being generous and giving and wanting to be financially successful so that you can bless other people and make the world a better place. Poor people don't build schools in third world countries. Poor people don't put in good water sources and wells in Africa where they don't have that. Poor people can't do that. Now, there's nothing wrong with being poor. God loves everyone the same. But if you're completely broke and you don't have enough for yourself, you can't help anybody else. So you have got to get to a point where you have enough for yourself and have excess that you can then give away and make the world a better place. You know what I mean? So I know there's some, folks at church who, get a little sensitive when you start talking about money or wanting to make more money. But my question is, why do you want to make more money? Do you want to make more money so that you can, just make yourself, fancy, or are you actually trying to make the world a better place? There's two different motivations there. And one is a very righteous desire to be able to donate more to your church, donate more to charity, and do some good things in the world,
Yeah.
And I think God blesses us for that desire.
So I had you wouldn't know it by looking at my house because it seems like we accumulate stuff all the time, but I'm really at the core of who I am. I'm really a minimalist, right? So I always say God has such a sense of humor because why do I keep getting all this stuff, right? And I had a pastor tell me, Terry, if God can get it through you, he will get it to you. So I'm like, he needs to tell me who this is supposed to go to because we start to, but then something will happen, like a relief effort or something will happen in the world. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, like for example, that thing that happened with, where was it? I can't even remember where it was, but mothers were coming across the line in their baby strollers. It's just something that just happened recently, where people were fleeing from danger. But anyway, I was able to send a whole bunch of water bottles that we've had for like ever. Because I'm like, why am I storing and carrying around these water bottles? And who would have known a year later that they would have needed it? So I actually knew somebody personally who was filling like 5 suitcases to go over there and bring needs because that's where their family was. And so it's true. You can't outgive God. And really, if he can get it to you, he'll get it through you. You just have to be like, okay, where is this supposed to go? But but yeah, that is I can't believe it's already 11:30. I feel like we've only been talking for 5 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun, Terry.
Yeah, I feel like we've only been talking for 5 minutes, but we are determined to always only keep it to 30 minutes because we don't want it to be too long. We want it to be in bite-sized pieces where people can, can watch it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about what we're doing in our community and for people, and I'm excited that we're doing these different things. So if somebody has a question, I can just say, and to me, honestly, and I say it on these lives because I want people to know, if I send you a video and you keep asking questions, right? Sometimes people keep asking questions, they don't really want the answer. But we're really here to help people advance financially, improve their quality of life. So if they really want the answer, they'll do for themselves what they can do for themselves, which is educate themselves, watch videos, learn the financial language, right? When somebody says, here, watch this video. So recently what I find myself doing is I find myself saying, read this book or watch this video and tell me what questions you have after you read it. and after you watch it, and then I get questions like that. Okay, Terry, 3 years from now, how do we know how much equity we have so that we can pull it and buy our first investment property?
Right.
That's how I know somebody's really listening, and you know what I mean? They're getting to that level where actually they're ready to take action. That's a little nugget there for realtors who want to work with investors or ready people or people of action, right? It's like, this is the action that I'm going to take so I can get to this level. So, all right, what are you wearing today? Are you wearing you said you wear your softball uniform?
No, it's my Phillies shirt, Philadelphia Phillies. I'm a baseball fan.
Okay, because I said, do you have a baseball uniform? And you said a softball uniform. You didn't know I was talking about the
No, this is just my Phillies shirt. My boy and I, we like to go to the games sometimes, and enjoy it, a live game. It's a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you've coached. Actually, I've been wanting to say this on the live because I just think this is so cool, and the power. I always like to talk about the power of association, but also the power of association through education. But I was talking to your dad, and he said that he coached a team that had a little league team or something like that, right? And he had like 16. I just thought this was amazing. He had there were 16 parents or something like that, and all of them periodically would do things together financially and investment wise, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but all of them are good financially. And that's what I mean when I talk about, right? If you keep positioning yourself well, you're going to find other people who are positioning themselves well, and then working together to advance financially. You form little partnerships, and you form, with investment groups, which there was something I was going to say to you. We're like out of time, but there was something I was going to say without saying. Can I say it? Is it okay, GR? Are you going to give me? You're probably like, you don't know yet, because sometimes. Just let me know if we can't talk about this, okay? And then I'm going to take these videos and turn them.
I don't have any secrets. We're good.
Let me know. Well, what I don't want to do all the time is always use bigger numbers. I always want to stay within certain numbers, but I also sometimes you don't want to give property addresses while you're the middle project or anything like that, right? But right. I was in the office writing up my contract, and you were on the phone with someone, and you were talking right. to them about, hey, is it okay for me to talk about this? Just a little. Okay.
Sure.
So you were like, hey, listen, we need, I just want to give you an opportunity to give some, if you want, to this project that we want to finish up. Here are the circumstances. Here's your part in it. Here's where we are. Do you want to give a certain amount? And we're going to probably wrap it up in a couple months. And we're talking about a 20% return on your investment. And I jumped up out of my seat and I said, I was in the door. I'm going, me, pick me. Do you remember? There's a reason I'm sharing this. And you're on the phone, so you smile at me, you nod like to acknowledge, okay, Terry, I see you. So I go sit back down. And I can tell you're talking more to this person still. 20% return on your investment. And I'm thinking how you're talking, he's probably going to say, yeah, let me give more, amount. And you're talking maybe, hey, 10 or 20,000. And my brain is saying, $10,000, 20% return on my investment, 2 or 3 months. That's 10,000. That's 2,000. That's 1,200 back, or 20,000 is 4,000 in a couple months. That's a different form of passive income. Because when I talk, right? And so I run to the doorway again, as if you missed me the first time. And I'm like, me, pick me, right? And you nod and smile, right? To acknowledge, like, I see you, Terry. Okay. And when you get done off the phone, here's my point of that. When you get done off the phone, here's what you said to me. You said, Terry, we've been in this deal for a little bit, right? And I knew it was partners that you'd worked with. And you said, so I always have to give them first opportunity to see if they want that opportunity. And the reason I share that is because that's what I mean. That's what we're doing when we're giving people the opportunity to get in the room with us. Is first they got to build an association, and we have to know who they are, and we have to know what they're interested in, right? We have to encourage them on what steps to do to maybe one day be in partners with someone, right?
Right. So
because you do have to give the opportunity to someone that you're already in partners with, And exactly. I think that project that you're doing right now is something we could talk about 6 months after the project is done. Because you'll be like, here with the results. Do you want to piggyback off anything with that before? That could be our last thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're at 38 minutes, so we're way over time, but it's been great conversation. Considering we didn't have anything planned today, what a great conversation, right?
Right. So, but that
Yeah.
is right.
Yeah.
You have done partnerships with people for a while because you built trust in your relationship.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, that is something every time I talk to somebody who meets me for the first time who knows you, they
Yeah.
have just the greatest things to say. They're like, I've known him forever. He's such a great guy. And it's good to have that type of reputation in the community,
Yeah.
So
I try.
yeah. So I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for Myers Realty, and I'm thankful that you do this with me on Tuesdays. It was a great idea. And
Awesome.
okay, I'm gonna let you go.
All right, Terry.
So I shared that, but we
Have a
didn't really
great
talk
day.
about it. But I'm sure somebody will watch this now, and we can piggyback a portion of this video to 6 months from now when you talk
Yeah.
about results from that, right? Because I can
Sure.
always crop and add videos together and say, hey, this is what we were talking about then, right?
Absolutely.
So,
For
all
sure.
right. All right.
All right.
Thanks, GR. I appreciate you.
Have a blessed day, everybody. All right.
You too.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so there we go. Okay, everyone. So that was just a combination of, I guess, a whole bunch of different talks. I'm working on this 5 video series of, getting 5 steps to financial independence. Okay. So I meant to do a video on Monday. My intent was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to go live and share that. But sometimes when you're doing things like this online, I just have to fit it into my schedule because I ended up going under contract, so I have to adjust like that. But I am going to just know that I am putting that 5 video series together. It was actually what I started when I started a few years back with the financial coaching, 5 steps to get on track in your personal finances. And we're just going to label it now 5 steps to financial independence, right? But anyway, so GR Myers and I go live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. because we want to, first of all, connect with people in our community. Second of all, encourage people to know that you can do it. You can own a home, right? If you can rent, you can own. And if you can get your first one, you can buy your first investment property. So the very next Tuesday, I guess we're going to do some goal settings. So if you're local, that's in person at Myers Realty. So we're going to do some financial goal settings on here's actually what's your personal step to get to that level, you guys. So this was a variety of things. Hope you enjoyed it. You can catch it on YouTube if you actually end up watching this. Today's Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. If you actually end up watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. And then if you're not on our email list, you guys get on our email list. There's some videos. Sometimes we send short videos. Sometimes we'll do talks like this, and I'll be like, hey, those 4 minutes are really good. So I'll send you a quick 4-minute video because, we value your time and we want to also save time. So we crop videos to save time and repurpose. But okay, you guys. So anyway, I'm excited about my day. Hope you guys are excited about your day. Blessings and God's favor to you. I always want to end every live by just encouraging you to know that, you're meant to be the one. You're meant to be the one who improves your quality of life. You're meant to be the one who is supposed to be that generous giver. Whatever that thing is that God is placing on your heart and mind to do, you're meant to be the one to do it, right? And so I'm actually going through something like that right now, like these events and these different things. I was telling my husband, I said, man, I tell everybody you're meant to be the one. And then I find myself out loud saying, I wish somebody would bring that to our community. I wish somebody would offer that to our community. And then I realized, that thing that I'm thinking about, maybe I'm supposed to be the one to do that. And that's how you know. If you start thinking, I wish somebody would do this, I wish somebody would do that, maybe you're meant to be the one to do it, right? So position yourself in a way financially where you have the freedom to choose, you improve your quality of life, and you can be a generous giver, right? Okay, so as always, from my heart to yours, may God bless your efforts to be physically and financially healthy and strong. Love you guys. Mwah.